Hey, everybody. Welcome to tonight's session of Black Women Making Money. Hope everybody is doing well. Today, as you are coming in, please like the video, please share the live stream, especially if you know somebody who is trying to advance their career, wondering why they're not getting promoted. I came across a very good video from the Wharton School of Business that was discussing this, and that is what we're going to talk about this evening. So, again, like the video as you all are coming in. If you're listening to the replay, definitely put replay in the chat. Or if you have advice with regards to how, especially Black women, can advance their careers, definitely putting that in the comment section if you're listening to a replay or the chat this evening as you all are coming in. Another thing is don't forget, if you're not on my email list, you're crazy to not be on our email list. We do stuff behind the scenes, behind the YouTube. Where there's no charge for you to participate, but it is exclusive content and exclusive opportunities for you to network with the other ladies of Black Women Making Money. So it's bwmakingmoney.com. You're able to sign up for the email list by going to that website. If you're having trouble pulling it up, try a different browser, because a couple of people said that some browsers don't work with it and other browsers do. So we have Demure in the building saying hello, and Down to Earth is here as well, saying good afternoon to everybody. So, all right. Wharton School of Business is part of UPenn. It is an elite school that does a lot of different studies and talks about a lot of different information. If you were to look at the things that I'm subscribed to on YouTube, it's an eclectic group of things. And one of the places I am subscribed to is the Wharton School of Business. This came on my radar from a few days ago. And when I started watching, I'm like, oh, this is so great. I wanted to bring this content to all of you. So Shara's in the building as well, saying hello. And again, reminding everybody to sign up for exclusive content, bwmakingmoney.com. Thank you so much, Shar. Well, we're going to jump right into the conversation this evening. This is about 20 minutes. It's chocked full of so much good content with regards to why you're not getting promoted at work from a woman's point of view and the things that you can do in order to rectify that. So again, we're going to watch this from the Wharton School of Business here. It's called The No Club, Putting a Stop to Women's Dead in Work. How dead in work derails careers and ways to fix it. So this is for you if you're in tech, if you're in medicine, if you're like me, I'm a mortgage loan officer, anything that you're doing. If you are really at a dead end with your job, your current job, and with your career, this is going to be a great video for you. So again, share the stream and let's get started.
Thank you for being here and listening to me. I'm going to tell you about this lovely book that we have written, which is joint with Linda Babcock, Brenda Peiser, and Lori Weingard. They're all faculty at Carnegie Mellon. And about 13 years ago, we all got together in what, more than anything, was a self-help group. We were all working really, really long hours. We had had fairly successful careers, but we kept working many more hours than our peers who seemed just as successful. So
basically, they were working a lot more hours than the men in their field, and they were not getting ahead, or they were not getting ahead as much as the men in their field. And they got together to figure out what was going on there. And I think you all are going to be fascinated with what they found and the research that they found, because this is a research book and this is a research topic that they're going to have during this 20 minutes. Let's continue listening.
Got together at a restaurant between the two universities where you could get ridiculously cheap and poor wine. But it was sort of an indicator of how desperate we were. And what we started to do when we would meet was to go over all the different things we had on our desks. What were their assignments? What were we happy about and what were we not happy about? And
So this is one of the things that you can start off with as well is thinking about and writing down everything that you have to do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, because they're going to have you start thinking about um, the tasks that you're doing and why for women and especially for Black women, the super majority of what we get assigned is dead end work that is not promotable work. It's not promotable work. Whereas men tend to get more things assigned to them. And we learned that they actually go after assignments that puts them on a promotable track. So let's keep listening.
what we realized as we were going through these very, very long lists was that while there was some work that seemed to get a lot of recognition, there was other work that was getting a lot less recognition. We ended up calling the work that got a lot of recognition for promotable, both because it could lead to promotion, but also because it could get you a salary increase, a nicer office, nicer future assignment. And what we realized was that we're spending a lot of time not on the work that was high in promotability, but rather on the work that was really low in promotability. And while
So you have to ask yourself that right now as you're listening to this. Are you spending a lot of time on work that has low promotability and really being honest with yourself? Are you being assigned that work or are you volunteering to do that work? If you have that work on your desk right now, is it work that you can ultimately delegate? Or do you feel like no one is going to be able to do it as well as you can? And I know there are people who like to blame racism, white supremacy, but sometimes it's not that. In this case, it is more probably about us being women than about us being Black. But we have to put ourselves on the track of being promotable if that's what we want to do within our jobs. And that starts with the tasks that we are doing every day, every week, every month, every year within our jobs. Let's keep listening.
Well, we initially called it very inappropriately for crappy tasks. We realized that the work that we felt was crappy really was important to the organizations that we were working for. So we ended up calling it non-promotable tasks, precisely because the work that was sort of seemed to keep us very occupied and didn't give us any recognition, nonetheless was work that really helped out the organization.
So this is important because your boss may say to you, hey, but what you're doing is so important to the business. It's what helps the business run. It's what helped the company actually service clients. Yet, if it is a non-promotable task, you may want to have one or two of those on your task list, but to have yourself doing 70, 80% non-promotable tasks again is not going to help your career.
Now you might say, well, what are examples of these non-promotable tasks? How do we figure this out? And the non-promotable tasks are a little bit challenging to figure out, or NPTs as we call them for short, because what is a non-promotable task for you really depends on what your occupation is, what your experience is. Something that is promotable for a junior colleague could very well be non-promotable for you. But good examples are something as simple as helping other people out in the office, helping them out with an assignment. It could be onboarding, it could be mentoring, it could be doing the wonderful office housework that we've talked a lot about, recruiting. All of those assignments tend to fall in this, very often are treated as if they're non-promotable, meaning it's really important work, but it's not work that we get a lot of recognition for. A good example of non-promotable work came out of a recent survey that was done by McKinsey and Lean In, where they
So everybody, Lean In was the book that was written by Sheryl Sandberg. She was the COO of Facebook for many, many years, and she was trying to get more women as executives within, Fortune 1000 companies. So this was a McKinsey and a Lean In survey that they did.
Surveyed 400 different organizations and asked them, what kind of tasks do you want your leaders to be engaged in? Where should they be spending their time? And 90% of these organizations said, we see it as critical that we have leaders who are spending time on employee well-being, meaning is the workload right, is the employee doing okay? So 90% of the organization said, yes, this is what we want our leaders to do. When they subsequently got a question, which was, do you recognize this work? Only 25% of the organization said yes.
Okay, so this is a very important point. Very important point. So they first asked the question, well, what is most important to your organization? And these days, I would say DEI is falling off, ladies. We've had this conversation, but they asked 400 firms, 400 big companies, hey, what do you want? What's the most important thing to your organization? And the people said it's anything improving employee well-being and DEI. And then they asked the follow-up question, are you actually focused on when people do those tasks that they actually get to move up in the organization? And the firms said no. Only 25% of them said yes, 75% of them said no. So just reading what your company is saying is important to them is not enough if you are looking to have career promotion, career advancement. This was when I heard this, this actually caused me to stop and say, I wanted to talk about this with all of you. When we start talking about how to play the game, when we start talking about how to play the game, these are the types of things within corporate America that we have to be aware of. DEI is dying. I love you, ladies. I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we've had this conversation. DEI is dying. Employee well-being is enough, with regards to the profitability of the company, but you would have more of a chance moving up if you can affect sales, if you can affect reducing expenses, if you can affect profitability, if during this uncertain time, you can affect some sort of way that the company can get greater market share or not lose as many clients, etc. Those are the things that's going to be promotable for you right now, not DEI and not employee well-being. Demir is here saying if an intern would do it, it's probably not promotable work. That's exactly right. Dawn Earth is saying I'm paid well but unchallenged, which can lead to me being stagnant. Understanding when it's time to go and pursuing something better is another way to promote yourself. I agree with that as well. Denise is in the building. True Mystique is here as well. How We Learn and Grow Daily is saying hello. And you got to bring value. Yeah, but it depends on what type of value, because they will say to you, value is X, but they're not promoting anybody that's doing X in the organization. When I talk to you ladies about playing chestnut checkers, these are the types of things that we're referring to as well. If you affect the bottom line, that's how that gets you recognized. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's continue listening to this.
And behold, the same thing happened when they were asked about leaders spending time on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was seen as critical, but not something that was rewarded. So that's what we mean by non-promotable tasks. And you might sort of say, well, how do I figure out if my work or what assignments are non-promotable for me? And we've sort of narrowed down on 3 key characteristics that are telling on the extent to which your work is non-promotable. The first is that it tends to work that doesn't contribute directly to the organization's mission. So if you're working in a for-profit firm, working directly with clients, having billable hours, bringing in revenue tends to be the promotable work. Doing pro bono work, doing administrative work is less promotable.
And I just said this as well. One of the ways that you can figure out what your organization's objectives are is by asking your boss's boss. I'm always a fan of that. Asking anybody in the C-suite, hey, what are the big things we're trying to hit this year? So that way you can set yourself up to work on those projects. Though that way you can be in line for promotions. Anything that is not instrumental to your organization hitting their objectives, you want to get rid of. Some of you need to start reading your company newsletters. There's a lot of work that your communications department puts into those company newsletters. Maybe you want to start looking at them, reading them, figuring out like if there's a letter from the CEO or an email from the CEO of the company or the CEO or somebody in the C-suite is talking about what the business is doing, 90% of people tune it out. You want to be a part of the 10%. What does it take for you to be a part of the 10%? It takes you actually paying attention to these things. Even if you think you're not going to get promoted or you're not going to stay at the organization you're at currently, it will help you, strengthen you as you are um, engaged in interviews for future work. Hey, Erica, good to see you. All right, let's keep going.
Another characteristic, as you might expect, is that it tends to be work that is invisible. So you might put all the slides together, you might do all the groundwork, prepare all the data, but if somebody else is giving that presentation, giving the presentation is the promotable assignment.
Giving the presentation is the promotable assignment, ladies. People seeing you. If you're shy, I understand you're shy. If you think that you do not present well, it is time for you to invest in some communications courses. Invest your money and your time getting better at those things. But this is vital that you actually nail these things if you want to get 10, 20, 30, $40,000 bumps in your salary.
And the last critical characteristic is that it tends to be work that doesn't require your specialized skills. So many other people can do it. A very common non-promotable task is to take notes at a meeting. What does it take to take notes at a meeting? It certainly doesn't require an advanced degree. A pen, a pad, and a pulse can pretty much do it for everybody. So the fact that it's not specialized skills really makes it challenging to try to make this work promotable.
Now, if you're an intern, if you're entry level, I definitely suggest you start off taking notes. Start off taking notes. But we're always talking about the four things I'm always trying to tell you. One of them is your technical skills, getting those technical skills to be at the top 10% within the industry. Within my company right now, I need to be at the top 10% of lead generation for my business. So that's all I'm studying. Not all. It's a lot of what I'm studying right now. For you, it's something else. What is the technical skill that you need to have in order to be successful?
So we spoke a lot about this, and the more we talked about our sort of non-promotable tasks and how we vowed in our no club to start saying no to this work, many of our male colleagues began to report that they also had a lot of non-promotable tasks. And that caused us to sort of get out of our little self-help group and begin to ask, who is it who's doing all of this non-promotable work? Are we all, I've yet to meet an employee who was not super busy, but are we all busy with the same work? So one of the studies we did was that we worked with a professional services firm, and they gave us 3 years of their data. And of course, the benefit of a professional services firm is that they keep really careful track of how their employees are spending their time. So we got the 3 years of data. We looked at all the different assignments that employees had had. And then we went to the management and said, can you tell us, is this assignment promotable or non-promotable? And they managed to sort those tasks. And then we went back to the data and said, can we detect any differences in how employees are spending their time? And it turns out that there are very large differences. I'm going to show you differences by gender. I'm just going to show you the picture from mid-career women, so they've yet to make partners in the firm. And it turned out that women in this firm were spending...
Pay attention to this, ladies. Pay attention to this, because this is the results of the study here. They did it based on gender.
200 more hours on non-promotable work per year than their male colleagues.
Women spend 200 plus more hours on non-promotable work than men do. We, especially as Black women, we probably spend much more time on that, on non-promotable work, because many of us, people see us as either a dumping ground for giving us that non-promotable work, or we volunteer for the non-promotable work. We do it so well, and then when we decide we want to move up, we can't get rid of the non-promotable work. Demira is saying, speak up and say thanks when someone compliments work you do, especially if they didn't know you were the one who put things together. I agree with that. Everybody like the video as you're coming in as well. Let's continue listening.
Needless to say, if you're spending 200 more hours on work that doesn't get any recognition, it's going to be very hard to advance in the organization. Now, you might say, well, this is just one organization. How bad can this be? And it turns out it's a pattern that we see everywhere. It shows up for consultants very broadly. It shows up in academia, where female faculty are spending more time on administrative service work, whereas male faculty have more time to do research. It shows up for attorneys. It shows up for supermarket clerks, where females are spending more time at the checkout line, which means they don't get to know the rest of the store in advance. It shows up for engineers. It shows up for TSA agents. And it shows up for architects. There is no profession that we have looked at where we don't see this pattern. So the differences are very persistent. It's across the field. And as you might imagine, it's not just being female that gives you more of the non-promotable work. Being a female of color gives you even more of the non-promotable work. So,
okay, everybody, put a 1 in the chat if this is enlightening and if you are in this position. Put a 1 in the chat. Put a 2 in the chat if you're like, no, the stuff I'm doing is highly promotable and I'm on the ball. Put a 1 in the chat if what this woman is saying thus far is resonating with you and you're realizing that you're having a lot of dead end work, because we as Black women are subject to have the most dead end work given to us. And we volunteer for a lot of this dead end work as well. So I'm seeing the ones coming through. So you all are hopefully in the right spot to notice what is happening with regards to us getting a lot of this dead end work. So they have here the survey of 3,000 engineers. And this is saying, I have had the same access to desirable assignments as my colleagues. White women, 85%-ish. Sorry, white men is 85%. White women is about 68%. Asian American women, oh, they've got the colors on here wrong. I think this is supposed to be Asian American women here, is about 55%. Latina women is about 55%. But oh, look at Black women. Oh, look at Black women, 42%-ish. So that means that we believe we have half of the access to desirable assignments as our white male colleagues. I'm seeing the ones coming through, 1 working to 2. That's why I wanted to show this to you. 1. And ladies, share this video. If you don't share anything on my channel, this is a great video for you to share with other Black women. Now, what is the number 1 reason why we as Black women have half the access to desirable, promotable assignments as our white male colleagues? The number 1 reason, in Cherie's opinion, that we have half the access to desirable assignments as the white male colleagues is our networks. It's we don't know anybody. It's we don't know the right people in the organizations we work for. It's that we haven't tooted our own horn with regards to the people who are actually giving out those assignments. We're going to watch a little bit later on how white men actually decide on the assignments that they're taking versus what we're doing, ladies. Celine is in the house as well. Hey. But this could be the difference between you making $70,000 a year and $140,000 a year. Is this video right here from Wharton School of Business?
This is results from engineers, where we can see that while white men report that they have great access to sort of good assignments, females across the board report having less access to the promotable work, and being female of color gives you even less access. So we get this very persistent pattern that suggests that we're not sharing these non-promotable assignments in any kind of equal way.
Mentor Shelley is in the building. I'm going to drop the link. Mentor Shelley, if you're able to come up, or anybody else, but especially Mentor Shelley, I want to have you come up because this is your wheelhouse, Mentor Shelley. This is your wheelhouse. So if anybody knows who Mentor Shelley is, she is HR, recruiting, things like that. She does more HR stuff. So I would love for her to come up. If anybody else wants to come up as well. Abundance is saying Black women are taught to be humble in the workplace. We are taught to be humble. My mother, who is a boomer, taught us to get our education, get a job, put our heads down, and just work. It is not serving us, ladies. It's not serving us. If we want to be promotable, we have to do the desirable assignments that are promotable as well. Mokamami is here, level up those careers. Mentor Shelley saying, I'm driving, come up very soon. Awesome discussion. Fantastic. I should have asked you, Mentor Shelley, when you were able to do this, but if you're able to come up whenever, just drive safely. Anybody can come up as well. It is not just getting the quote good assignments. You have to be with people who are willing to work with you as a team. There are too many variables that are not being discussed. Okay, well, definitely. I think that you do have to be with a good team as well. But step number one is we're not even putting ourselves in the game to get these desirable assignments. So yeah, so what you're mentioning, AAE, is important. Like you also have to, when you're looking at a desirable assignment, you also have to assess assess the team that is also working on that assignment as well. I agree with that. Yeah. All right, let's keep listening.
Now, one problem is when looking at this data is that we don't know why people are spending their time differently. So why is it that women are spending more time on the non-promotable work? So to figure out that question, we decided to run a number of studies. And why is it important? Well, it could be that women are doing the non-promotable work because they're better at it. It could be that women are doing the non-promotable work because they like it more. If those are the reasons, it's not clear that this is something that we necessarily need to intervene on. So we wanted to see, well, what is it that causes women to take on these non-promotable tasks? What is it that ends up giving them all this non-promotable work? So we took a step back and thought about how had we gotten the non-promotable assignments that we had gotten. And many of them we had gotten in a meeting where I'm sure you can recognize the setting. You come in, a manager describes an assignment that nobody wants, and then asks the dreaded question, who wants to volunteer? And we all know how this plays out. Suddenly people look like they can't hear anymore. There are important messages that are coming in on their phone. Suddenly they get chilly and have to put on jackets. There's lots of activity, but none of the activity is around raising your hand and saying, sure, I will take the task that will help everybody else out and put me at a disadvantage. So we wanted to look at that setting. Now, the challenge with doing...
Okay, so we have all been in those meetings where something happens and there's an assignment and people are looking around. This is where Steve Harvey, act like a lady, think like a man, comes in, except this in the corporate setting. We're going to think like a man when it comes to these things. We are not going to volunteer for something just because nobody else wants to do it. That is the ultimate no, no, no. From now on, ladies. AE is saying this channel is upwardly mobile. The behaviors exhibited by Black women who make 80K and less and Black women who make over 100K are very different. I absolutely would agree with that. So I know that there are a lot of younger ladies, according to my analytics, that are below the age of 29. So as you are, you may be at 40, 50, 60,000 right now. How do we get you to $100,000? Absolutely. But some Black women are at 100,000 when they should be at 140. And this is the reason why, because they are not accepting promotable task, because they're not putting themselves in the position of promotable tasks. So basically, I want you to be upwardly mobile based on where you should be in your career. But you do bring up a good point, definitely. A Black woman who makes 75 to 100 can make herself visible to get to 100K, but the behaviors of Black women at the workplace is not always discussed, which is why we wanted to have this discussion. This was done at the Wharton School of Business, but how do we apply it to us as Black women? So absolutely. Paige is in the building. Hello, Paige. Thank you so much again for telling everybody. Sign up for at bwmakingmoney.com for exclusive content that we have behind the YouTube. We don't put it on YouTube. Hello, all. I wanted to ask which major is better based on what I can choose. Let's come back to that channel. Let's come back to that. I want to stick with the topic for the evening, and then we'll come back to that. Okay?
That in sort of in a natural setting is that we don't know what causes people to do certain things. So we took them into our laboratory. I have a very large laboratory at the University of Pittsburgh, and we brought in hundreds and hundreds of undergraduates. And we told them, you have 2 minutes to find a volunteer for a task that's going to benefit all of you. It's just going to benefit the person who volunteers less than the 2 other people. So we put them in these 3 groups. You have 2 minutes to find a volunteer. As you might imagine, they wait until the very end of the 2 minutes before somebody volunteers, but by and large, they find a volunteer. What was interesting was that in this very anonymous setting, women volunteered 48% more than men.
Whew. Women volunteered 48% more than men. I wonder if Black women volunteered 86% more than white women, right? Sometimes people trick us. Sometimes people will like wait until the last minute, ask you to do something, and you cannot sit in silence and just, everybody else around the table is sitting in silence. I'm going to sit in silence too. I'm not doing it, right? But that is the mindset that some of us need to have. Again, playing chestnut checkers, looking at these tasks that the companies are asking us to do, doing a quick analysis of, is this something I should even go for? And keeping your hand down if it is not promotable. Because women volunteering close to 50% more than men, I believe the Black women are probably even more than that. And sometimes, depending on the organization you're in, Black women are not even offered to do any additional task at all. So when you get something, you think you have to actually accept it. Well, I'm here to say that if you are having trouble where you're not being offered any of the juicy projects, it is because you have not networked well enough within the company, within the people who are giving the assignments, for them to come and actually choose and select you for those assignments. AE is saying if you're at 100 and you should be at 140, there's a pretty good idea. So why? Too many Black women focus on everything else at the job but performance. We also need to discuss reputation as well. I can agree with that. I can absolutely agree with that.
So when it came to asking for a volunteer, time and again, there were in 10 different groups, women would raise their hand and say, sure, I will take on that task. Now you could say, well, how do you know that how does this shed light on why you're doing this? Well, volunteering in this particular case meant that you had to push a button on a computer, and I can assure you that men and women are equally good at pushing buttons on a computer. So we could rule out the skill explanation, but it could be that women are volunteering because they somehow are more altruistic. Maybe it's just because they look at the group and they say, oh, we should all be able to figure this out. We're all benefiting. The way to test that is to say, well, if females as a population are more altruistic, then it should be the case that if I have an all-female group, then they should volunteer more than if I have an all-male group. So we ran those studies, and it turns out that the minute that you remove the men from the female groups, suddenly they decrease how much they're volunteering because they can rely on the other females. And lo and behold, when you remove the women from the male group, they can suddenly figure out how to volunteer. So there's no difference in how much the all-male and all-female group volunteers, which shows us that this is not coming from the fact that women and men have different preferences. Rather, the difference is coming because we all expect women to take on these tasks.
Hello, just like housework. Just like housework. If there are 2 men and 8 women sitting around the table, and there is a task that needs to be done in the corporate world, the 2 men will look around like they don't hear nothing, they don't know nothing. However, if you have 10 men sitting around a volunteer table, all of a sudden the men figure out how to do the work, right? So these men, they're psychological. They know what they are doing. And they expect women to do it. They absolutely do. AE says, but work at 130K, which is a definition of upwardly mobile Black woman per this channel. I agree with that. If you are not offered a task and it is a complex task, that is not good. People do not know your performance. Yeah, so let's talk about that then. If you're not being offered tasks, you have to figure out again why you're not being offered those tasks. You should be at $130,000 level, right? So if you're not being offered those tasks, and sometimes it's not necessarily a complex task, it is a task that moves the ball forward within the organization. So oftentimes it's a complex task, but it really is specific tasks that help the organization make more money, make more profit, get more brand visibility, etc. You have to basically be your own advocate for being asked to participate in those types of tasks within the organization. And if you're not your own advocate and being smart and being strategic with it, then you're going to have trouble. So one of the things that came up with it was a few years ago, there was a group of women who sued, I think it was some venture capitalist firms in California, some VC firms. And the reason that they sued them was because the men were going to strip clubs in order to discuss business. Yes, this is a true story. The men were going to strip clubs in order to discuss business. And that was a time when they were divvying up all of the good projects, and the women were not invited or were not going to the strip clubs and participating in this. And because of that, they were left out of a career advancement. So they ended up suing, and I think it was 2 women who sued and ended up winning this court case. But this is also a matter of you being social. If people invite you to happy hour, go. If people, like in the office, like the right people, the people who have the ability to give the assignments, if they're inviting you to happy hour, go. If the company has a charitable organization that they work with and all of the executives are going to some black tie event, go. You go, right? You go, you participate, you network with them. If they're playing golf, you go. Even if you don't know how to play golf that well, you go, etc. You put yourself in a position to be able to get the good promotable assignments. Mentor Shelley is saying senior leadership affects the dynamics of viable assignments along with specific access to them. They do. So we have to know this to the senior members. Weaponized incompetence. Hey, Invincible Summer. Icy Lyrics. I don't think I've seen you before. Hello, welcome. Just stop being a mule, period. I don't know what that means. Hey, just being nosy, saying sorry I'm late. No problem. Demura saying avoid the glass cliff until you handle other projects first. Absolutely. So first of all, you should go in and you should do your job. Like you should basically make sure that whatever you were hired to do within that job is done. But everybody is always given in the job description miscellaneous task as assigned. The miscellaneous task as assigned is are the tasks that you want to make sure that you are being strategic with accepting. Um, I see lyrics saying, also, too many times Black women are given too much work and don't even get promoted. It's not worth it. Focus on networking and getting to know people. Getting more work doesn't really mean much. You're right. Mr. Shelley, your reputation within the organization and how you're perceived affects the viable opportunities as well. That's it. You're right. That's a boomer ideology. Times have changed, I'm sure. It has. Hey, Fresh Progress Wellness, great topic, professional visibility. Thank you so much. Demura is saying, and if you get a special opportunity, don't blab to all your coworkers about it. Girls, say it again. Don't be in the lunchroom talking to all your coworkers about it. Don't. You never know who you may be competing with. Yes, absolutely. Now, I will say something else about coworkers. Be strategic about the coworkers you are connected with as well. And we had the Shanquella Robinson discussion, and let me just say, rest in peace again to Shanquella. I still have not forgotten about her and her justice. But bringing it back to the topic, I talked about who you're having lunch with, who you're spending the majority of your time with within the work sector, because people will look at you, they will look at the coworkers you are friendliest with, and they will make decisions based on that as well. You think your boss's boss is not looking at you, but he or she is. So be strategic even about that. Be strategic even about that. Just because there are other Black women, I hate to say it like this, but y'all know how I am. I just got to talk straight. Just because there are a group of other Black women who you work with and work around, if they are not upwardly mobile, they could negatively affect your ability to get these promotable tasks assigned to you or even offered to you. Be clear on your expectations. You are right. Be clear on the expectations for promotion. Have professional visibility. Share your wins. Share what you're working on. And most importantly, share what you created. And don't share it on Instagram or TikTok either. Please don't. Because I've seen a couple of Gen Zers get fired for that. So, let's see here. And you never get a raise by staying at the same company. You have to leave to be competitively paid. Just do the work and then vote. Yeah. So here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I agree with that. I will say that your ability to monkey branch can be impacted by the promotable task you're doing at your current job as well. Because the new employer is going to say, well, what have you done at this old company? And if you're able to say, here are the promotable tasks that I've done at this old company, then that gives you a bigger swing in what you are able to ask for. So you're saying here, I work for a small company and they like way more personal interaction than I'm comfortable with. Take note on company interaction. Get out of your comfort zone a little and don't go deep. Stay high. Say hi. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. I have a saying that I am friendly without being friends. I'm friendly without being friends. So you're saying here, I'm strategic about the extra tax I accept. Good for you. I choose the work that allows me to show skills that I don't typically get to show with my regular duties. That is the way to do it, but make sure they're also promotable tasks. And that's the whole point of today's session. Other Black women absolutely cause a lot of trouble towards other Black women under the 75K income level more than anything else at the workplace. That is, depending on the industry. So I see lyrics is saying that's correct, but yeah, you have to understand that you're being watched and optics matter. So It does depend on the industry. It depends on the company, et cetera, et cetera. For example, for Black women who are attorneys and lawyers or in finance, that's not good advice. Those industries are very small and everyone knows everyone. It's not necessarily that you are rude to the other Black women. I'm never, ever saying that. It is being strategic about who you are having lunch with, who you are having happy hour with, et cetera, et cetera. So, um, so that's what we're saying with regards to that. So I want to continue on with this because I don't want this to be too long of a session today.
Now, how does that also play out? It also plays out if you have a manager that comes in and says, hey, could you please be the one who takes on that task? So we ran those studies as well. And lo and behold, if we bring in a manager who gets to ask somebody to please take on an assignment, you might call it being voluntold, it turns out that managers ask women 44% more than they ask men. It doesn't matter if it's a male or female manager, they all ask women more by exactly the same share. And you could sort of question, is it really a good idea to have managers ask women if they get asked over and over and over? It turns out it's a really good idea because women say yes 50% more than the men.
Hello, women say yes 50% more than men. So there are a couple of things that I think we can do as Black women. Number one is uh, I will give you my Real Housewives example. There are certain, if you've ever watched the Real Housewives, there are certain housewives that you can ask them to do anything and they roll over. There are other housewives where you can only give them the cream of the crop. You can only offer them the best room on vacation, the best seat on the airplane, etc. There is a tightrope that we can walk as Black women where our managers know, okay, Cherie, for example, I know she will do A, I know she won't do B. That is an ambiance, that is an air about us. What we are able to do with the volunteer, because a manager will go to the person most likely to say yes because the task needs to be done. So what you are able to do is, first of all, if you're getting that kind of thing all the time, you need to ask yourself, what am I radiating and emitting that the manager wants to come to me all the time and ask me to do these tasks, right? The second thing is you can say, for example, unfortunately, I'm unable to do that assignment along with the other tasks that I have right now on my, on my task list. However, if you get a task, with regards to A, B, or C, I would be more than happy to take a look at those types of tasks. We need to start practicing now how to say no and to pivot to the task that we want to get assigned.
So we get this really evil cycle where we're asking women more, they say yes more, all because we're expecting them to say yes. So we keep being reconfirmed in this belief that women are going to take on the work. Now, why is it important to show that this in part is coming from expectations? It is important to show that it's coming from expectations because it shows that organizations are making mistakes. No organization wants to distribute work based on who's least reluctant to take it on. They want to distribute work based on who's best at taking on the assignment. And when I say best, I mean in a comparative advantage sense. So even though you're good at organizing the holiday party, doesn't mean that that's the best use of your time. So it clearly means that organizations are making mistakes. It also means that this is not something that women very easily can fix themselves. Because what's going to happen is if everybody expects you to take on an assignment and you say no, you're going to get a much harsher response. There's a beautiful study by Heilman and Chen that shows that if women say no, they get backlash, whereas if men say yes, they get rewarded. So there are very different responses. It's not just a question of women saying no.
And this is true, especially as Black women. If we say no, we'll get even more backlash as well, which is why I said you have to have the, we call it, the standing, where people know they can or cannot try you with regards to coming to you with some BS assignment, right? There are certain people within your family, within your friend group, etc., that you're like, yeah, they would do that. No, they wouldn't do that. So maybe pushover is a better way of saying it. Are you a Black woman who is considered a pushover for non-promotable task? Maybe that's a better way of saying it. Let's keep listening.
So we're seeing this very pervasive pattern with these gender differences, and we could sort of say, well, what are the costs of having these differences? Well, it's clear that these gendered work assignments are certainly not very good for women, right? So what are the costs to women? Well, obviously, if you're doing more non-promotable work, you're not going to advance as quickly as your colleagues. We have a series of studies now that show that if you are given non-promotable work, if your portfolio has more non-promotable work than a colleague's, you of course are going to get paid less, but you also can't improve your pay by going in to try to improve the pay. So if you're sitting with less valued work and you try.
And that includes you cannot get additional compensation going to a new company if you have done non-promotable work at the current company you're in. It doesn't mean that you can't get a bump at all, but if we're looking at people getting 20, 30, 40, $50,000 swings in salary, it is because they have done non-promotable work that, again, is something around helping the company make more money, save more money, or build a brand, that it helps them long term. So again, we have to think about this not just in the current position that we have, but our ability to monkey branch as well.
Try to improve through negotiation. We keep talking about women not negotiating or not doing as well when they negotiate over compensation. Well, it turns out if you're doing lots of non-promotable work, it does not matter what you're going to say because you're not going to be successful. And importantly, it's not just financial consequences. We keep talking and we see increasing burnout by women. We see more and more women dropping out of very successful positions, in part because they're unhappy with the task assignments that they're getting. So for women, it's clearly bad, but it's also really bad for.
So I do want to talk just a little bit about job burnout as well, because they mentioned it. They mentioned the fact that women, so this is with anybody. If you are unhappy with what you are doing, you are going to have job dissatisfaction, you're going to have burnout. When I was doing business plans up until the end of last year, I literally was depressed for the past 2.5 years because I hated what I was doing. And it was certain aspects of writing business plans that I just was like so stressed out over. I have a better quality of life now, helping with mortgages, right? So if you are very dissatisfied with your job, if you're very burnt out, sometimes you can't even get up out of the bed in order to do, things like studying for that tech cert or going out to network or things like that. If you're in a current place of job dissatisfaction, really taking a look at the non-promotable tasks, at all the tasks you're asked to do in your job, figuring out how many of those are non-promotable tasks and trying to figure out how to get rid of them or get a promotable assignment that's going to fill you up and give you some sort of joy. This is so important. You're saying here $130K a year, I'm not getting anyone coffee nor ordering anyone's lunch, not doing administrative tasks that would be completed by facilities. Yeah, you shouldn't be. You must help the company make money, save time. Absolutely. Brand building, things like that. Absolutely. Dawn to Earth is saying, I'm watching everyone black, white, or other. Everyone can draw a knife and put it in your back. Yeah, they can. Some corporate people are just, they're just bad. So let's keep listening.
In part because they're unhappy with the task assignments that they're getting. So for women, it's clearly bad, but it's also really bad for organizations. It's bad for organizations because if we end up allocating work based on these expectations, we're not going to give all of our new employees the same opportunities to demonstrate their skill. We're not going to be able to figure out who is it who should be handling the most valued client. So we're not going to be able to utilize our workforce, and we're going to end up with this really unfortunate misalignment between the corporate and the individual interest.
Most companies do not care about individual employees. They say they do. They say they do. However, most companies could give a shit if you are happy or unhappy. Most companies just, they want you happy enough to want to come in and work, but really they want you to be stuck on a paycheck, and they want you to be stuck on, whatever I have to do in order to clock in at 9, get out at 5, and being dead in. It is up to you to fulfill yourself. It is up to you to fully utilize your skills within your job. Or if you're not fully utilizing your skills within your job, either you start a side hustle or you start a business where you're fully utilizing your skills, or you figure out how you're going to be able to move to the next business. So you're saying here, all of this really makes me think of having my own business. So I just mentioned that. I'm at a place of job dissatisfaction and corporate dissatisfaction overall. Yeah. So then taking a look at that, understand that entrepreneurship is a skill. I've been an entrepreneur. Haven't had a W-2 salary since 2009. It comes up with its own ups and downs. But yeah, if you have job dissatisfaction, then considering that as well. Let's keep going.
I had an experience where I walked into my own office and all the office furniture was gone from the lobby. And I arrived later than several of my male colleagues, and I went in to ask them, has somebody made a call? The furniture shouldn't be missing. And I was told, surprisingly by some of them, that they had not noticed that the furniture was gone. Some people might characterize that as being strategically incompetent. Others, on the other hand, told me that it was not their job to report on missing furniture in the office. And I told them that, surprisingly, none of us had it written in our contract that that was our job. And the problem with us not recognizing the non-promotable work is that everybody benefits from shirking on it. So the people who are going to end up picking it up are those who have lowest status, have lowest empowerment, and they're going to keep picking it up because nobody else is going to come in and help them. So what are some of the solutions that we can think of? Well, first of all, it's clear that this is not a fix the women problem. We keep saying, oh, women are behind in this dimension, women are behind in this dimension, let's fix them and make them more like the successful men. There's no organization that will say that we need more people who say no. We need more people who say yes. And the only way you're going to get more people who are saying yes is by thinking about the obvious solutions within the organization.
So this is great. This is great that these 4 women have written this book, and they are trying to fix the organizations to get more really men to do more of the non-promotable task. You all know how I feel about this. Individually, it is up to you. Don't depend on these 4 ladies or anybody else to fix the organizations. If you're waiting on the organizations to be fixed, you may be waiting for your entire career. So that's their solutions, but that's their solutions for the organizations.
So those organizational solutions, first of all, just to become aware of this problem. Prior to our work, we didn't have a term for non-promotable task. Bringing that term to front and center is going to make it easier for people to say, my career is going in the wrong direction because I'm spending 3 days a week on work that you don't really recognize. So bringing that awareness, spending time when we hire new employees to not just show them where the coffee machine is, but also show them what is it that really matters if you want to advance in this organization.
That's a question you should be asking when you start a job in every 90 days to 6 months. The more of a one-to-one relationship you have with your boss's boss, whomever is like giving the assignments, the more opportunity you will have to ask these questions and figure out how you can fit in so that you can get those promotable tasks offered to you. But the first thing, I know these are organizational solutions. The first thing is your own awareness as an individual.
Challenging our organizations to try to document how bad things are. Spoken to lots of CEOs who say, yes, I know that's a big problem in other organizations, but it's not a problem in mine, which is wonderful. Then you should document and celebrate you as being the only organization we've come across that doesn't have this problem. But at a very practical level, there are many, many things we can do. Instead of asking for volunteers, let's just take turns. When I go into the meetings at the University of Pittsburgh now, where we used to ask for volunteer, we've had this amazing technological advance, which is called a knitted hat with names in it, which seems silly, but I can assure you the whole game that we play where everybody says that they're busy, we don't have to play that anymore. So taking turns and also encouraging managers to be aware of what is your job as a manager. Our scarcest resource in any organization is employee time.
Your time is your scarcest resource, ladies. Your time is your scarcest resource. So I'm actually going to go through past this and just hit the conclusion here because we've already talked about the solutions one-on-one. We don't necessarily need to go through the organizational solutions. Let's just go to the conclusion. And if anyone wants to come up, it's your last chance to come up. Other than that, we have our marching assignments. Let's hear the last minute of this.
Book, as much as I want to say this is not a women's problem, until the organizations get fixed, there are certainly things that females can do themselves. We talk about it in the book. We encourage you, if you're struggling with, to...
Okay, let's go back to what they talked about in the book here. They say the individual solutions are know what is promotable, be aware of bias, say no strategically, and negotiate your yes. These are the individual solutions that they have. I thought that what they had here was like an excellent discussion with regards to this. And oh, she is right on time. Mentor Shelley is in the building. Hello.
Hi, everybody. How you guys doing today?
We are good. I'm so glad that you're able to come and just give us some gems with regards to this. What did you think of this topic?
This is a very important topic in the job market right now, only because, finding a new opportunity is not as easy as it was a year ago.
Mhm.
And where you are right now, whether it be job or you're trying to transition somewhere else, whether you're starting a business or not, it is so key and vital to find out or to do your research, to know whatever position you hold in a company right now, what are some of the things you have to look at the company from a CEO perspective, not necessarily as an employee, to be able to understand what's hitting the bottom line, what's affecting the bottom line, what are things that save this company money, what are things that are making this company money, what are things that are saving the company's time, and what's also what processes can be tightened up, improved, and changed to give those positive results to the bottom line. And if you can insert yourself in any one of those things, as the presenter earlier stated, those are promotable tasks. Because if you can show, let's say for instance, maybe you're not getting the assignments, maybe you can create your own. You don't necessarily have to wait for somebody to give you an opportunity. You can create your own. But it's going to take research, it's going to take observation, and it's going to take asking the right questions from the C-suite if you have access to them, managers, supervisors. If you report to a supervisor, then go above them as well. Is it okay for me to have an informative, information meeting, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes? If it's even a phone call to their extension, networking within the organization you currently work in is going to be key to getting the answers to those questions, because you may not be getting those assignments, but there are ways for you to find those assignments if you're not getting them or you don't necessarily have direct access to them. Maybe it's indirect access, but there's a will, there's a way.
I absolutely agree with that. So I have so many questions for you. So the first question is, With regards to people right now who are kind of stuck, they let's say they do their list and they discover they have a whole lot of non-promotable assignments and they need to get rid of those in order to bring in the promotable assignment. Would it make more sense for them to discover a promotable assignment and then like suggest to whomever, the powers that be, that they do that assignment, but in order to do that assignment, they need to offload this stuff first, or do they offload the stuff first? Like, what are some of your practical suggestions when it comes to that?
Okay. For example, I can use myself in this regard. I conduct the orientations at my current position, in my current position. And when I got there, the orientation was all paper. I literally had to sit there with employees and go through safety and HR policies and company policies via paper. I had not seen an orientation on paper in the last 15 years. This company has their orientation on paper. I did not ask for permission. What I did was convert that paper into a course-like type of orientation. So number one, I'm not talking so much. Number two, it takes less time. And number three, they get the point with, instead of using the paper, I developed it into a video course style type of orientation with the same information, and they're engaged both listening and video, and of course, put audio visuals together here, and brought the training program or the orientation program into the 21st century. So number one, it saved me time of and yapping my mouth the whole time, because I'm literally reading to you, which was uh, um, mind numbing to say the least. So I
Yeah.
had to put my brain together to try to say, listen, we got to bring this to the 21st century. Now, of course, they've since had, they've bought a training program that we can use, but had that I not taken the initiative to do that, I'd still be stuck doing paper. And then what I can do was that once I have, I reduce the amount of time it took to do that, then it would free me up to work on other projects and systemize other things. The whole approach to that is, I'm not necessarily going to be waiting for you to give me something. If you give me the autonomy over something, I'm going to figure out a way to automate that process so it saves me time. So I have more time to take on the tasks that are really going to have dollar signs attached to them. And because I took that initiative, along with a few other things, I put some processes in place where there weren't any. Um, Thankfully, I work for a manager that gives that autonomy. And I have
Mentor Shelley, you're going in and out now. We want to make sure we're getting
oh,
everything you're saying.
yeah, hold on. Okay. Is that
I
better?
think that's better. Yeah, that's better wherever you are.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the you
Oh, darn. You went out again. Now we really can't hear you. Well, Mentor Shelley is moving to a different location. I love what she said about the fact that you can create your own assignments and you are able to basically identify an area where there could be more efficiency within an organization, or an area where you can
not
again help the.
only uh-oh.
Oh, you've went out for a while, Mentor
Oh,
Shelley.
oh, okay. Okay. Let me see if this helps. Let me get it off of. Okay. Is that better?
Oh, yeah, that's better, that's better. If you
Okay,
don't mind, let
okay.
me finish my point with the ladies. I was just talking about the fact that I really liked what you said about creating your own assignment and
Yeah.
focusing on, the things that you're doing right now within an
Hmm.
organization that could be more efficient, could be a great way
Hmm.
to do it, as well as things that can help the organization make more money or save money. The other thing is a lot of organizations now, want people who can use ChatGPT. So if you're able to use ChatGPT, like a lot of the job descriptions coming out as asking, have you used it in a corporate setting, right? So if you're
Mhm.
able to bring in some aspect of ChatGPT in order to do the assignment that makes you more efficient, or even if it's even if it is ChatGPT helped you write the processes,
Right.
down once you've got it all figured out. And then the other thing is, this is also a great way for your corporation to pay for classes for you to be upskilled as well. So if
Right.
you find something where you're creating your own assignment, but you're like, but hey, I need this specific skill. Nobody in the company has it. I'm willing to go take the class on this in order to become certified so that then I can come and do this within the organization. That was how I got my mortgage loan licensing paid for me, is because my boss is like, I want somebody in here who can actually do this and is certified to do it. And, I didn't have to spend close to $3,000 getting certified to do this.
Nice.
Yes, yes. So he paid for it. Yeah, I think it was close. I think it was like 2000 and some change. So, but that's not money out of my pocket, right?
Right.
So you all could do the same thing. And now I have a certification that sticks with me forever as long as I pay the annual fees. For some of you, it could be the same thing with some of the tech that you're wanting to work on. So
Right.
go ahead, Mentor Shelley.
Yeah, what I was saying was because of that, when bonus time came up, that was one of the things that she put on my review. Oh, you took initiative to do this, you took initiative to ask questions, you took initiative to do this and that. So when bonus time came up, Mentor Shelley got a bonus. Yay me.
Woohoo!
but
Yes.
but at the end of the day, it's not just for bonuses, but it's approaching it from a standpoint is once I get in here, how can I make it better? How can I tighten up processes? How can I have this place or my position run more efficiently? Now, let's not be too efficient. You want to keep your job, but
Yes.
but you also want to make sure that even if because there are organizations unfortunately with people that look like myself or even remotely resembles a not man will not get the unfortunate will not get some of the opportunities. Let's be clear, there are some companies out there that still you know uh, believe in the old boys club. So even if you're in organizations like that because they still exist, um creating your own assignments and seeing where inefficiencies are and fixing those inefficiencies, automating some of the things that you're doing can definitely open doors for you, but you have to be strategic. This is where a lot of the career strategy sessions that I go over with clients talk about. Like we get into the details. What is it that you're doing every day? How can you make it better? How can you show? Oh well, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? And hopefully, you have a boss that will give you credit for what you're doing because you have some of those that will steal your ideas and try to act like it's theirs too. Let's be clear. We're in a real world, and we encounter unethical people, unfortunately. So you always want to make sure that in HR, from an HR standpoint, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. So you have to also make sure you document whenever you're doing things as well. But not necessarily waiting for the opportunity, but creating it for yourself is
I
always
love
the
it.
approach, and looking at it from a ownership standpoint, not necessarily an employee standpoint,
I
will
have one
definitely
more
help
thing
you to
for you
see things.
with that. One more thing with this. Ladies, very, very important. Very important. Update your LinkedIn. When
Please,
you are
please.
done, either if it's something that's like a 1 month thing or something like that, when you're done, update your LinkedIn saying this is what you did as well. Because people will be looking at your LinkedIn in order to offer you those new opportunities. If it's something that's continuous, then, as soon as you get it to a point where it makes sense to put it on your LinkedIn, definitely do that. I know some people who even, it depends on the type of company you work for and what it is you are doing, but
Hmm.
they will even document it on their LinkedIn feed. Like, hey, I'm doing XYZ within my company. So not giving away any trade secrets, but just, again, just letting people know, like, this is what I'm doing. You'll be surprised who's
Yeah,
watching it. You'll be surprised.
it
So,
it
mhm.
it be
Go ahead. Oh, can you all hear Mentor Shelley, or is it me?
Ps. We're responsible for job descriptions. We're responsible for helping a company to structure itself. So
Yeah, Mentor Shelley, you're still going in and out.
on today. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Demure is saying here, LinkedIn has templates for new jobs, accomplishments, plug and post. I love that. I didn't know that.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I didn't know that. Great. Um, and then Demure is also saying, yay to mentor Shelley. She's a fan. So yes, yes. So,
Thank
well,
you.
I don't like to spend too much time on here. Channel, I
Mm.
see that you're asking about networking if you have a business. I am always mentioning chambers of commerce, but it depends on the type of business you have, and more importantly, who your target market is. Who's going to hire you within your business? If people within the chamber of commerce are the people who would hire you, then network there. If it is tech companies, then you go to tech meetups, you go to tech conferences. Like, you have to ask, where is your customer? And you want to who are the decision makers and have the purse, right? Who can
Hmm.
afford whatever service you are offering, and then that is where you network. So meetups are great. um, Chambers of commerce are great. Different conferences are great. I am a fan of going to an association more than just going to a whole bunch of random places to network. The reason for that is because I want the same people seeing me all the time. When people see you 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12, 24 times, that is when you really get great opportunities presented to you, not showing up randomly at one place and then going to the next place and meeting a whole new group of people and going to the third place and meeting a whole new group of people. You don't go deep with those relationships. So those are my suggestions to you. So anything else, Mentor Shelley, before we head out?
Um, I just want to leave this with you, ladies. Make sure that look at what you're doing right now. If you're in a position at work, and you find that you have non-promotable tasks on your list, figure out a way. There's ChatGPT, there's Pictory AI, there's all this AI around us. Figure out a way to use some of this AI to help you automate some of that stuff so it can give you some time, room, and bandwidth at work to be able to either create or take on promotable assignments if career promotion is your goal. If you're in a business and you find if you're creating a business and you find that the administrative tasks and things of that nature are bogging you down and you have the budget, it may be time to get a virtual assistant. So it just depends on what position you're in. But don't take this particular video or this live that we're doing is so intricate to what are our next steps to get to the next level career wise and business wise. And it's so key to look at where you are now so you understand where you're going.
I agree.
That's my two
And
cents.
Mentor Shelley has career coaching for you ladies. So if you are stuck in your career, I always suggest you spend your resources on getting unstuck. Because again, this could be a 20, 30, $40,000 bump for you. So Mentor Shelley, if people need career coaching, how can they find you?
At mentorshelley.com/consultations.
mentorshelley.com/consultations with an S.
Yes, with an S.
Perfect, perfect. So, ladies, I definitely suggest you, if you are stuck and you need some guidance, I would definitely recommend and refer Mentor Shelley to you. I'm so glad that she was able to come on. Mentor Shelley, I'm going to have to like coordinate with you on the back end in order
Yeah.
to have you come and, just be a regular guest for these types of conversations because they're so important.
Yes, ma'am. Will do.
All
Always happy
right.
to help.
Thank you so much. Okay, Abundance is saying thank you, everybody. Thanks to Mentor Shelley for being my special guest tonight. Definitely take this information and run with it, ladies, because so many of us are deserving of being able to climb the ladder, whether it's corporate or whether it is in our businesses. And we need to start being a part of the No Club, just like these women who are talking at Wharton Business School are talking about, right? Nobody's going to do it for us, especially as Black women. These tasks, these non promotable tasks, the organizations need done no matter what. That doesn't mean you personally have to do them. So that was the whole point of tonight's session. All right, Channel is saying thank you. Demira is saying thank you. You all are welcome. You all are welcome. All right, take care, ladies, and I will see you in the next couple of days. Take care. Bye-bye.